This is New Jersey Transit GP40PH-2B number 4219. It was getting ready for its departure out of Hoboken towards the Pascagoula Valley line towards Spring Valley, New York. The locomotive was built in 1967 as Louisville National GP40 number 3026. The locomotive was then sold years later to New Jersey Transit, rebuilt as a GP40PH-2A and renumbered to 4148. During its time for New Jersey Transit, it was involved in a Secaucus collision back in 1996 which claimed the lives of 3 people. Just what happened and who or what was responsible for the crash? It's Friday, February 9th, 1996. NJT 1254 was getting ready for its departure out of Warwick, making multiple stops at stations on the Bergen line except for Glen Rock before reaching its final destination, Hoboken Terminal. 1254 consists of common 2 cab car 5146, which was leading, coach cars 1760, 1603, 1738, 1728, and GP40PH-2 number 4210 pushing. At the controls of 1254 was 59-year-old John DeCurtis, who has been working as engineer for New Jersey Transit for 40 years, and we'll come back to him soon. The train also consists of 2 conductors, Conductor Stephen Miller and an unnamed assistant conductor. Over 200 passengers were on board the ill-fated train. Meanwhile, in Hoboken, New Jersey, at the Hoboken Terminal, NJT 1107 was getting ready for its departure from Hoboken towards Suffolk, New York. At the controls of 1107 was 47-year-old Alfonso Debarnes, who has been working for NJT as engineer for 7 years. A conductor and an assistant conductor, 2 NJT deadhang employees that were hanged to Suffolk so they could operate a train that originated there, and 125 passengers were on board the train. However, the train would never make it towards its first station stop. Leading on level 7 was GP40PH-2A, 4148, 5 Common 1 coaches, 5712, 5739, 5708, 5735, 5815, and Common 1 cab car 5120 at the rear. The next few minutes were completely normal, as train 1107 was about to pass a clear signal at Bergen Junction at 53 miles an hour. The track speed there is 70 miles an hour, while NJT 1254 was leaving Harmon Cove Station at 8:33 a.m. (1254) soon encountered a medium approach signal, telling the engineer of 1254 that he will have to slow down and prepare to stop at the next signal at Bergen Junction to let 1107 to pass before 1254 can continue to Hoboken. According to the black boxes, the train was passing the medium approach signal at 34 miles an hour. Meanwhile, 1107 was still flying down the line at 53 miles an hour approaching Bergen Junction. Many occupants on 1107 would not notice anything unusual, but little did they notice that 1254 actually ran past the stop signal at Bergen Junction at 20 miles an hour heading straight towards 1107. And when both trains crossed siren one another, the engineer of 1254 immediately hits the emergency brakes, but it was already too late. The two trains collide head-on at 8:40 a.m. Cab car 5146 collided head-on with GP40 4148, causing both of them to derail. 5146 also jackknifed in the process, hitting all of the coach cars on level 7, also causing them to derail, leaving cab car 5120 the only car in the contest that didn't derail. The right side of 5146 was also split open from the collision. It was also reported that the remaining coach cars from 1254 did suffer minimum damage, probably either from flying debris from both trains or a huge jolt from 5146. GP40PH-2 4110 did not suffer any damage and didn't derail, but the same couldn't be said for 4148, as 4148's roof collapsed in on the cab and only suffered minor damage on his right side, but the rest of his body was intact. The conductors from both trains, including two NJT deadhead employees, helped evacuate passengers from both trains. And after the evacuation, the crew members flagged down any oncoming trains. After the accident, the New Jersey Transit Police Department were immediately notified and arrived at the crash site 13 minutes later. Other emergency services soon arrived at the crash site within a few minutes after the first 911 call. In the end, 3 people lost their lives: the engineers from both trains and Arthur Stern, the only passenger casualty who was on board 1254. 10 more occupants suffered very serious injuries: a crew member from 1254, 7 passengers, and 2 emergency personnel, and 148 passengers suffered minor injuries. The NTSB soon launches an investigation into the crash. It was clear that 1254 ran past a stop signal before colliding with 1107. But why though? They ruled out drug use, alcohol use, suicidal, sleeping on the job, among other things. So what was the culprit? Well, after going through the Curtis's medical files, it was discovered just 19 years prior he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, not only suffering from peripheral vascular disease, but also suffering called a diabetic eye disease resulting in color blindness. Despite him suffering type 2 diabetes, he was still physically fit to ride trains, but the same couldn't be said for his records. In the 1980s, he had faced disciplinary actions not once, not twice, but 6 times. With the 2 of the 6 disciplinary actions was passing a stop signal in 1986 and 1989, with colorblindness a possible suspect. And on the day of the accident, he must have thought the signal at Bergen Junction was green but not red, which explains why he sped up past the signal moments before impact. In the end, cab car 5146 was damaged beyond repair and scrapped. 4148 was taken to Altoona, where it was rebuilt as a GP40PH-2B, renumbered to 4219, and was soon put back into service by September of 1997, and still continues to operate as of 2024. 4110 remained in passenger service for a couple more years, until it was retired from passenger service, and the locomotive was instead being used for equipment moves, yard switching, etc., but also still continues to operate as of 2024. And finally, cab car 5120 was retired by New Jersey Transit, and is now being held by the United Historical Society of New Jersey. It's been 28 years since that collision occurred, and many thought they have seen the last collision at Secaucus. However, Just a few months later, in November of 1996, disaster struck again at Secaucus. But that's a story saved for another day. Now, this will be where this video ends, although there's one thing I need to get off my chest before ending this video, so let's get to it. And it's unfortunately a warning for what's about to come. So in case you guys didn't know, New Jersey Transit recently announced that they are going to increase fares by 15% by July 1st, plus another 3% each and every year. So that basically means more money out of our pockets every year. Now, it's fair to say this is something we cannot afford, especially in the future. Like, if the fares are really going to be off the charts in the future, then that's really going to be a recipe for disaster. Yeah, because at some point we may not afford to ride trains, buses, or wherever, if the prices of the fares are really going to be high. Now I know as an NJT passenger myself, I know sometimes riding trains can be complicated. You see, signal issues, wire issues, especially on Maplewood, congestions, disabled trains, etc. etc. I even have a friend who's an NJT engineer that usually rides trains to work, and unfortunately one day, he missed the opportunity to ride his first train of the day. I think it was due to wire issues, because we have been receiving numerous reports on wire issues on the Marston exits, and sometimes on the Northeast Corridor. Or I think it was signal issues, I don't really know. So later that day, I met up with him while he was operating a train bound for Dover, and he was not happy. He looks at me and says, and I quote, "It was a mess. It got so bad I didn't run my first train." Here's another example. My neighbor was on her way back home from New York. I think this was when the Polo Bridge was stuck open, and it was back in 2018. It got so bad she decided to take an Uber home $200 later. And probably my worst experience on NJT, me and my friend were on our way towards Port Jervis, and it was going to be my very first time taking a train up to Port Jervis. As soon as we were leaving East Orange, we heard a loud boom, and the train sat there for over an hour, until it was finally able to move, and we unfortunately missed our Port Jervis train at Secaucus as a result. New Jersey Transit, the way to go, and we're all like, seriously, New Jersey Transit? Why bringing us into this mess? But to be fair, I still enjoy traveling on trains on NJT to this day. Like, I enjoy riding trains to New York, Hoboken, Secaucus, wherever. Despite the current situation, that's life, and it is what it is. And to be fair, not every company is perfect, you know? Although we gotta try to, make the best of it, but at the same time, it can carry good, bad, and dire consequences. And that's a reality.